Welcome back. Well, it's all about Hurricane Francine, its impacts on Louisiana. It will be arriving and making landfall tomorrow afternoon, evening, but those outer rain bands will be working their way inland during the late morning and early afternoon hours, and those tropical storm force winds coming in during the early afternoon hours as well. So let's get to it and talk about, first off, that water vapor imagery. Lots going on, complicated little system here, and it is kind of a little system here, kind of caught in a little bit of a weak upper level low and a little bit of a moat of dry air that's been surrounding it thanks to the dry air that's came into Mexico and got into the system and really slowed it from becoming a hurricane. Now, as this goes northward, it's going to encounter this upper level low that's going to be swinging through Texas, and eventually that's going to drag this system off in a northeasterly direction. So northeast from here is heading for southern or southeastern Louisiana for sure if you're just eyeballing things. As we take a look at the radars, most of the tropical rains offshore, the heavier ones, and we can see the center of circulation of Francine showing up right here south of, we'll say, Port Arthur area. Again, can't really discern much, and again, we're really stretching it looking from the Doppler radars from so far out. And those tropical rains trying to work their way through Acadiana. Should see about a 40–50% chance of a few showers overnight tonight. We dial into Power Doppler 3. We see some scattered tropical shower activity that's moved through the area, heaviest of which now in Acadia Parish, heading for Church Point up through Grand Coteau in the Sunset area. But again, just benign tropical shower activity, and that's the way it goes most of the day tomorrow. Maybe some heavier tropical squalls, especially eastern portions of Acadiana. So here's the high-resolution satellite imagery. Two things we see. It's kind of elongated on some of the convection here, so there's probably upper-level shear, but we do have a central dense overcast. The center of circulation, though, is just about here. So we have convection on the western side of the storm. It's not encircling the storm, but this convection here could kind of interrupt some of that drier air trying to work its way in. And again, you can see the dry air along the Texas coast. They're not even going to get a drop of rain. They're getting some wind. That's about it. So the forecast track essentially unchanged, maybe nudged a little bit to the east. Forecast intensity, 90-mile-per-hour winds because of the shear, the dry air. We don't expect this to get too much stronger. Maybe still got a Category 2 in it at some point between this point and landfall. And again, you can see the tropical storm force winds covering a good part of Acadiana, much of southeast Louisiana into portions of Mississippi. And then the orange, that's hurricane force winds bumping into southern Vermilion Parish, southern Iberia Parish, all of St. Mary Parish as well, and into Terrebonne Parish. We'll get more into that wind situation in just a bit. Some changes with the hurricane warnings and watches. Hurricane warnings continue for Acadiana. Also now Baton Rouge included in the hurricane warning area, and now New Orleans in a hurricane watch area, in a tropical storm warning area. So in Acadiana, it's either hurricane warnings, southeastern portions of the region, and then tropical storm warnings farther north and west. So here's the system moving inland as we look at the radius of tropical storm force winds, 39 miles an hour, 54 miles per hour, and then 74 or greater. And you can see that covers from just about the Franklin area through Morgan City. And we're going to go with the National Hurricane Center forecast. We have to, even though our models have been saying differently, we got to err on the side of caution. And here's your estimated time of arrival of those tropical storm force winds. Hard to get this plotted out because it's a KML file imported into our system, but this is Wednesday 2 p.m. So between Wednesday 8 a.m. and Wednesday 2 p.m., tropical storm force winds, and 100% chance you're going to see those tropical storm force winds. As you get farther north and west, you can see the gradient drops off, Lafayette in the 80% zone, and then you get over towards, say, the Jennings area. We're talking maybe closer to 40% or 30%. So it's going to be mainly eastern portions of Acadiana where we're going to see those highest winds. Quick look at the HER model here just to get an idea on the gusts as we get into tomorrow afternoon. Winds coming in from the east at about 30, 35, gusts to 40, and then you see those higher gusts, 40, 50, 60, 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts for sure as we get into St. Mary Parish. But like the graph model, the HER model brings the center of circulation well southeast of Acadiana. into extreme southeastern Louisiana, and so does that graph model as well. Now, what do you prepare for? Well, 60 to 80 mile per hour winds if you're in St. Mary, lower St. Martin Parish, gusts to 90. This is what you prepare for. We're not going to show you what the models say. We're going to show you what you need to prepare for. Would be the higher end of the range. You get into Iberia Parish, we're talking 40, 50 mile per hour winds, gusts to 65. Lafayette Parish, upper St. Martin Parish, 35, 40 sustained, gusts to 50, so that's enough to do some power outages. And then as you go farther north and west, we can see those winds are lighter. But this is a much better scenario than what we were looking at just 24 hours ago, when we could have seen hurricane force winds even in Lafayette. That is not going to happen, but it's going to be a windy day tomorrow. Storm surge warning for much of the Louisiana coast, and water not an issue as we get into Vermilion Parish, maybe southeastern Vermilion Parish, but because the main track is going to be east of these areas, we're going to see water coming up, especially over by Sycamore Point, 3, 4, 5 feet of water with waves on top of that, and then pretty good penetration of some storm surge into St. Mary Parish and those low-lying areas outside of Franklin. That's where we could see some flooding. So be careful, please, during the course of the day tomorrow. Now, here's the latest graph model. This is the 0Z run, which is consistent with the earlier runs earlier today, and also pretty consistent with the HER model. But these are not hurricane models, but the graph has been pretty reliable and is really showing that Acadiana could be spared with tropical storm and hurricane conditions, but we're not going to play it like that. But nonetheless, somebody's going to get some very heavy rainfall, and will likely be more toward eastern Louisiana and into Mississippi with time. Dry northerly winds. The weather gets nice by this time, perhaps tomorrow night, maybe a little bit later than that. And again, here's the latest HER model showing a landfall east of the Hurricane Center's forecast track as well, and then drier air working its way in Thursday into the weekend. The weather looks great. As for rainfall, I think this is a pretty good estimate based on the HER model, but we might pull some of these higher rains back to the north and west. So it's going to be about 1 to 5 isolated, much higher amounts, up to 8 to 10 inches across portions of St. Mary Parish on eastward. So the storm surge, that level going down 1 to 5 inches of rain. It's going to be a big variation from west to east. Isolated higher amounts in St. Mary Parish. Most of us see gusts again tomorrow morning into tomorrow night, ending, we'll say after midnight, where those winds could be gusting up to 50 to 75 for the southeastern parishes. Most of us see winds gusting in the 35, 45, maybe 50 mile per hour range. And then there will be a risk of some tornadoes, mainly the northern and eastern portion of this particular storm. So overnight tonight, temperatures hold in the mid 70s, get into the mid to upper 70s tomorrow. Hurricane conditions nearby, just we'll say southeastern portions of Acadiana. Windy with periods of rain, winds 20 to 30, gusts 40 to 50 during the afternoon. You see how those winds shift out of the north as we get into tomorrow evening, and even out of the north-northwest by this time tomorrow night. 10-day forecast after tomorrow, it's a picnic with temperatures getting back into the upper 80s to near 90, and rain chances minimal for at least a week, if not a little bit more. But look out for tomorrow. Be ready for a little bit of a rough day, and even rougher as we get into St. Mary and lower St. Martin parishes. That's it for weather for now. We're going to have more coming up in just a little bit.